Hello everyone. Today we will discuss about the topic risk management process. So here in the risk management process, first we have to plan about, or we can say that risk management planning should be done, which establish the scope and which details about the management activities for the project. So establishing the context includes basically the planning the remainder of the process and mapping out the scope of the exercise, identify and objectives of the stakeholders, so the basis upon which risks will be evaluated, and we have to define a concrete framework as a process and agenda for the identification and analysis, right? So here I have shown a PPT. So in my first slide, I have shown you the risk management as a process. So in this, you can see the first step here is to identify the risk. Then second one is to measure the risk. Third one is examine the solutions. Fourth one is implement the solution. And the fifth one, the last one, is to monitor the result. So we will discuss one by one. So in this, the first the first step in the risk management as a process is identify the potential risk. So after the foremost step should be, or it is the planning, the establishing the context. So after establishing the the main step occurs as identify the potential risk, right? So risks are about events that when triggered will cause problems. So risk identification can start with the source of problems or with the problem itself. So risk identification requires knowledge of the organization, number one. Secondly, it requires the market in which the company operates. Then we have to require the knowledge of legal, social, political, and climatic environment in which the company operates, right? The financial strength and weaknesses of the company, what are our losses, what are our profits, the manufacturing processes and the manufacturing system, and business mechanism in which we operate. So any failure at this stage, to identify the particular cause may cause a major loss for the organization. So this is the very important step. The all other steps depends upon the first step. If our identification of political potential risk is wrong, then the whole process will prove wrong, right? So what can possibly be go wrong? So means what is actually wrong for the firm, what is actually right from the firm, we have to classify these two. So the four main risk categories can be hazard risk like fire, injured, operational risk could be there, financial risk could be there, strategic risk could be there. So organization has to identify according to their experience, according to their internal history, that and after even consulting with the industry professionals or your external research, so we have to identify the potential risk could be occurring for the company, right? Second one is we have to measure the frequency and severity. It means what is a likelihood or what is a probability, what is a frequency of a risk occurring, and if it did, what would be the impact of that occurring, or that what would be the severity, right? So once the risk have been, we can say, identified, so they must be assessed to their potential severity of loss and to the probability of occurrence. So these quantities can be either simple to measure, so in the case of value of lost building, or impossible to know for sure, in the case of the probability of an unlikely event occurring. So therefore, we can say that in the assessment process, it is very much critical to make the best educated guesses possible in order to properly prioritize the implementation of the risk management plan. So the fundamental difficulty which used to rise in the assessment or measurement is to determine the rate of occurrences, the frequency, because the statistical information is not available on all kinds of past incidents. So this is the basic problem which could be occurred, right? Then the third one is we have to examine the alternate solution. So examining the alternate solution is also very much important, because here we have to examine about what are the potential ways to treat the risk, right? So and these, according to these, which strikes the best balance between which can be affordable and effective also. So organization usually have the options, to accept, to avoid, to control, and to transfer a risk. So examine alternative solution means like a potential risk treatment. Once the risk have been identified and measured, or you can say assessed, so we apply the techniques to manage the risk, fall into regarding the, you can say here I have written the following categories. Like the first I have written that is accepting the risk. Accepting the risk means deciding that some risks are inherent in doing business and that benefits of an activity outweigh the potential risk. Means we have to decide that this would happen. This would definitely would happen. Then we can apply what? The risk transfer or risk reduction activities. Right? Then second one I have written that risk avoidance strategy means avoid the risk or circumstances which may lead to losses, or in other way we can say that avoidance may seem the answer to all risk, but avoiding risk also means losing out on the potential gain sometimes, that accepting the risk may be allowed, right? So here not entering the business to avoid the risk of loss also avoids the possibility of examining or earning the profits. And the next one I have written risk control, or you can say risk retention, in which risk can be, you can say, controlled either by avoidance or by controlling the losses. So avoidance basically implies that either a certain loss exposure is not acquired or an existing one is abundant, right? So loss control should be, we can say, it's a mitigation which is reducing the impact it will have if it occurs. So next one I have written here, risk transfer. It means that the expected party transfer the whole or part of the losses consequential to risk exposure, right? So apart from the insurance device, there are certain other techniques by which the risk may be transferred. So that we will discuss later on in my later on topics, that how we can transfer the risk. And the next one, the second last is decide which solution to use and implement it. Means here we have to decide on all the combinations of the methods to be used for each risk. So each risk management decision should be, recorded and approved by the appropriate level of management. For example, a risk concerning the image of the company of an organization should have a top level decision behind it, whereas IT management should have the authority to decide on computer virus risks, right? So the risk management plan should be adopted, and a good risk management plan should contain a schedule for controlling the implementation and responsible persons for those actions. Means uh, we have to find the needed resources such as personal and funding and get the necessary buy-in, and senior management will likely have to approve the plan first, and team members will have to be informed and trained if necessary. So we have to set up a formal process, to implement the solution logically and consistently across the company. And we have to encourage the employees regarding every step of the way. And the last one is we have to monitor the result. So risk management as a process, not a project that can be finished and that can be forgotten about. So the organization, its environment, its risk are constantly changing. Everyone knows that. So the process should be consistently revisited, right? So in this initial risk management plan, never be perfect, right? We have to review and evaluate the plans. Risk analysis results and management plans should be updated periodically. So basically, there are two primary reasons for this: to evaluate whether the previously selected security controls are still applicable and effective or not. Secondly, to evaluate the possible risk level changes in the business environment. For example, information risk are a good example of the rapidly changing business environment. Right? So here we have to review and evaluate. We have to monitor the results, that whatever we are doing, that practice, experience, and actual loss results will necessitate changes in the plan and contribute information to allow possible different decisions to be made in dealing with the risk being faced. So we have to monitor the results. So that's all for the today's lecture. Thank you so much.